Witamy ponownie po krótkiej, nieplanowanej, aż tak długiej przerwie. Chciałbym zaprosić wszystkich do następnego panelu, który poprowadzi Zuzanna Warso. Paneliści przedstawią się sami. Będzie to panel dotyczący przyszłości, przyszłych innowacji, głównie dotyczących AI, dotyczących open source, który może być wykorzystany w polskim przemyśle. So the panel will be in English, and I invite everyone to the panel with about the future proofing of Polish industry, moderated by Zuzanna Warso. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Dzień dobry. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Zuzanna Warso. I'm one of the co-directors of Open Future. You already know Alek, now you know me. There's also Paul, but he's not here today. Thank you for joining the panel about future-proofing Polish industries with open source. So we are fortunate to be joined by three experts who bring a range of perspective. We have Michał Domański, who leads business and partner relations at Bielik AI. We have Filip Konopczyński, who's the head of the analysis and research at NASK and also an expert at the Ministry of Digital Affairs. And we have Ines Okulska, who is a senior research engineer in natural language processing at Politechnika Wrocławska. And we'll begin with short opening statements from each of the panelists. Please keep it under 5 minutes. Then we have a moderated discussion, and if time allows, a little bit of Q&A. So get ready with your questions.
Okay, shall we start with some kind of a statement, or just the introduction plus the statement?
Plus the statement.
All right. So hi everyone, glad to see you all here, and glad to see you again, some of you at least, because yesterday we saw each other at Apple conference as well. My name's Michael, and I'm here, wearing one hat of Bielik AI, so one of the Polish open source large language models, and I'm there responsible for business partnerships and being that digital diplomat, flying all over Europe, trying to preach and teach about Polish open source and artificial intelligence. But also, I'm the founder of the Bielik Consulting Agency, so we try also to teach, B2B businesses about AI and implement open source models into Polish companies' workflows. I'm also the chief of staff at Omnivisor, so you might think of it as Polish Palantir. Yeah, it's really cool. AI agents everywhere. And most of my vision for the future proofing, let's say like that, is that obviously how to say it. I want to connect my statement to the previous conversation about the need for discussion and talking about the implementation. Well, I think the time for talks is over, and we need to start teaching people, because I'm focusing on teaching non-technical people about artificial intelligence, and we got to remember that only 44% of adult population in Poland has basic digital skills. So more than half of our population has no basic digital skills. So how can we speak about future-proofing or open source or artificial intelligence when our society doesn't know how to check an email or order something online?
Thank you. Ines.
Hi, hello everyone. As you told, now I'm happily working on the good stuff on really developing AI as a researcher. But I used to be a director at the Ministry of Digital Affairs at the AI department, actually. So I know it from two sides, and I'm actually very happy to not to have deal what he's dealing with right now. So I'm pretty sure we'll have something common, and maybe some different views. Or he will need to fight for the law and governmental problems or issues that are important, but still mostly creating obstacles for developing or implementing things. I'm laughing, but it's very important stuff, and usually very hard to combine, like what we would like to do or what is technologically possible with what is legally possible. I think that's the biggest challenge. So it's mostly not about not only about the skills and the and the technology itself, but mostly about the frameworks and the environment. And this legal part is like 90% of this environment. And we all had all those beautiful ideas of projects and what we could do with business, for business, etc. But at the end of the day, it's always like the huge, process with all those delays and factors and with all the changes that are happening. And even today, there are some, voices talking about some changes again in the government. So it's really not easy to follow the path, and with all this, with the changes in the technology, it's this rapid improvements and the explosions of new tools and new possibilities. It's almost impossible to keep up with it, like to create this framework. So I think it's the biggest one of the biggest challenge. But the other is open source. When we talk about future-proofing a company, I think open source is. On one way, it's easy and nice and accessible. On the other hand, it's not that accessible as some commercial stuff, because sometimes it's much easier to buy something. And when we put money on it, we also buy the maintenance or some support, like technical support. And with open source, you need to do it usually by yourself. You need to have infrastructure or just people knowing how to do this, because you always hear, okay, you can do everything. You can fine tune it. You can personalize it. You can combine it, etc., etc. But you need really skilled engineers to do that, and sometimes it's just easier to buy or to find the money to buy something which is packed in a product rather than just some raw, even very magical engine that you have to first coin and do something out of it.
Thank you, Ines. We'll talk about the obstacles in implementing open source in business and in the public administration. But before that, Philippe.
First of all, it's an honor to be here. My name is Filip Konopczyński, and as Ines has just mentioned, apparently I've been thrown under the bus here as the obstacle. So at least for today, I'll try to shrug this epithet off. It is true that working in the government, and I've joined the public administration 18 months ago. I used to work for NGOs. I used to work for R&D institutes, not just NASK, but also IDEAS and CBR. So I also worked in the media prior to that. So I think I have quite a unique view when it comes to seeing the innovation ecosystem. And I unfortunately have to agree with a lot of the statements that have been floated around right now. First of all, there is an understanding, and somehow I think I've seen the face of Director Ryszard Łuczyn here, who's a huge proponent of the movement, of the introduction of open source coordinators at various levels of public sector agencies. That would be certainly quite a welcome change when it comes to the approach to the open source. But I think the problems are a way deeper and harder to solve when it comes to this approach. So surely, from the perspective of a government official, it's easier to it's hard enough to manage to design and develop and carry out the public procurement process. This is something difficult. When it comes to and then in the end, it's always easier to buy a product. We're trying to fight this logic, and Ines has been one of the proponents of Plum, which has now evolved the Polish large language model, who is, I would say, competition to Bielik, but I would say they go hand in hand, and the bigger the merrier when it comes to the LLM, Gen AI bunch.
There are different fields of operation.
Obviously, and already the legal issues were mentioned. We had a bit of a discussion when it came to securing the data, and without a very firm and stable legal environment, it's always safer to go with one provider that has undergone the full compliance, and that always makes it easier for some actors. But when it comes to open source and AI, what we've been trying to do, and I'm glad to say that we've managed to reach the first milestone, which is to combine the forces of COI, which is the Central Informatic Agency, Central Informatic here in Poland, and NASK, the Research Institute, to use the brilliant minds of our researchers and engineers who work on more of the developer side of things, and establish an AI hub, which will be a central place that works mainly on open source models, to be honest, and implements them in a way that's useful not just for the bureaucrats, so us, and there's a lot to be done, obviously, but also for the citizens. So by integrating some AI, some chatbot options, some LLM-based options into the mObywatel app, which provides, if some of you are not probably are not Polish, we have this magical app that lets you do more and more as we speak every single day when it comes to using government e-services. So within a couple of weeks or even months, you'll be able to undergo the full registration of a company online with this app. So that's something very important, because we have the users. There are millions of users of mObywatel. So if you have this user base, then you can introduce certain solutions. The thing that's definitely one of the main talking points right now, not just within the efforts of Polish presidency in the EU, but all around Europe when it comes to applied AI strategy, for instance, is the technological sovereignty. We all know about the Eurostack. We know about those ideas. I'm afraid we don't have the details yet, but definitely, at least when it comes to the discussions, open source movement is trusted to be one of the deliverers of the major pillars of this technological sovereignty, whatever it means, because we all know that it comes in many different ways and shapes and forms. The last thing I'd like to say, it's less related to the open source as such, but here at NASK, we're very happy that we recently published a working paper with the International Labour Organization, so with the UN, and we're working very closely with the World Bank, and we replaced the Felton index for Gen AI exposure, and we'll be publishing the report on Poland within 2 or 3 weeks. And it seems pretty clear that there's going to be a huge change, particularly among the white-collar jobs, particularly among the ICT people. I just had a conversation with someone representing one of the major job listing websites here in Poland, and he also confirmed that the number of job applications, the recruitment processes is significantly lower than it used to be even 1 or 2 years ago. So
I believe he reported 50% drop.
A drop, yeah, that's quite likely. So when we talk about future-proof, something that can make open source movement future-proof, we definitely need to talk about skills and the tools that are being developed as we speak. And apart from the challenges, the immense challenges that are arising, we can also think about it as a force for democratization and egalitarianization of workers and people who want to work in tech. Perhaps they have not had the privilege of being raised in a proper family. Perhaps their parent wasn't a mathematician or an ICT specialist. And then, with a little bit of help from those multi-purpose tools, we can bridge this gap. So yeah, maybe it's a little bit too long for an opening statement, but I'll be very happy to delve into details.
Thank you. Let's try to connect some of the dots. We've heard a lot today about how the administration, on the one hand, loves open source, but at the same time struggles when it comes to implementation. And this is not only a Polish problem. When you set up a meeting with someone from the European Commission, you get a link from Teams, right? So it's all over the place. So we joked before the panel that public administration is somehow in a situationship with open source. Like, they don't really want to commit, right? They love it, but they don't want to commit. At the same time, there's this whole talk about European digital sovereignty, and the open source is supposed to be one of the pillars that will get us there, because without open source, we'll not have resilience, we'll not have autonomy, etc., etc. But it seems like, but this panel is supposed to be about business, right? But it seems to me that business outside of the IT has the same problems when it comes to adopting open source tools. Ines, you were talking about maintenance, for example. Okay, so what would you...
But before we come to this application, in applying this, the open source in the business, can we make a short stop with this, development of it? Because
okay, so let's park the other non-IT businesses for now, and let's start with the IT. You wanted to talk about the maintenance, the lack of skills. How does it look like from your perspective? Like, what's the problem there? If everybody loves open source, like, why the hell do we still use Microsoft Office?
I don't want to talk about software itself. We were talking about this. I'm more like an AI person, not the whole IT field. I'm going to take a step back, because what I wanted to say will link to your question, hopefully. I mean, that's the plan. Or actually, at least partially answer it. Because you mentioned the story that there are two big models in Poland, like two Polish large language models, Bielik and Plum. And you can wonder why. Why is it? Was it just, the more the merrier, or we need competition to make it better? Yeah, at the end, we can, talk about it like that, and it's still a positive way to see it. But the thing is, as we started to discuss the project that we should have a Polish large language model, we very soon, like at the ministry, we very soon met with Speaklish, with the group of very nice and engaged people who wanted to do it like in the underground. They just met, and they just wanted to do something. There were people from the business mostly having like a day job, well-paid day job, so they could spend some time at the afternoon without any special payments and just do something nice. And they were collecting data. First, they started with dataset. The goal was to have 1 terabyte of Polish text data just to train the first version of this Polish large language model. And we met at the very beginning. They were I don't know, a couple of months maybe ahead with the project. And I was amazed back then. I was like, wow, what a cool initiative. And I was very fresh at the ministry there, at this department. I was thinking, we have to cooperate. We have to do something for you. I mean, there are people who want to do this. They actually started, which is nice, but we actually wanted to support them. And after several months of trying to find a way and a frame, legal frame for that, it turned out it is impossible. It's just impossible legally to cooperate with them, to help them, because they already started, and then we would have to choose them, and you need to choose, openly and public, etc. There are procedures, and you can do this. And the only one thing we could do was to start, another project and hope that they will join, but actually they could join only by, by being hired in those institutions, like those 6 institutions they were appointed to make this project. So it wasn't like, it wasn't possible to really make actually a simple thing. You have like a group of people, talented people who wants to do something, and you just want to, support them as government. Because this is your field, this is your part of,
I join your bureaucratic emotional support circle.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was impossible. And this is why we started this Plume project. But the thing is, because it was governmentally supported and it needed to be like perfect in a legal way. And again, the team who was working on the data collection, not those Bielik people, Spicklish people, they were free. They weren't founded, they weren't supported, so they were free. They could do what they wanted, which is nice, and actually the only one way to do it, I guess. And the other people who were involved in this Plume project, they needed to be legally bounded by the whole, governmental framework of doing it, which means they collected a lot of very quality data, but it took, also a few months of very hard legal work. I think that those people just went, I don't know, crazy, or at least gray, with gray hair or something. But they did it. They collected a lot of license agreements, like really signed by all those people who donated the data, actually. And it is nice, but at the end, we promised an open source model, and it is open source, but not for commercial use. So because it was impossible, because, again, for those data donators, they didn't want to donate it to commercial use. So it's not a bad will. It's not, someone's idea. It's just, again, legal framework I was talking about. So now we have like very nice model for public administration and governmental issues and stuff, and then we have very nice Bielik open model for commercial use. Both are good. Both are there was a lot of effort put in this, but it's like, it's not easy to make open source and to make it work if you want to do it like very...
Before I hand over to you, Michał, I just want to follow up on something you said, but isn't it like the clash, basically what you're describing, a clash between this approach, move fast, break things, and the other one, do things legally, right? I mean,
at the end, it was a year for both of them, but the outcome is different.
But isn't it about the government not being able to allow having, taking stuff from the open internet, hoping for the best, that it's going to be fair use, right? So anyone, Michał, how does it look like from your perspective?
Well, first of all, when it comes to fair use, I gotta, underline that our entire data set is labeled and with sources provided, so everything's AI compliant. It's right now 3 terabytes of raw text data, and everything's prepared for AI Act. But I wanted to pile a bit on hating the, legal framework. Since I'm from the business and I've been, with startups and IT startups for, I don't know, dozen years, there's a meme in our industry that when a startup gets into a cooperation in some kind of a partnership, public funding, or gets into the bed with a fund that's got public funding, at least partially, it's already a dead startup. No one wants to invest in it. No one wants to cooperate with it. Because in order to be compliant with all the regulations, with all the frameworks, you need to be, having a full-time employee doing just that, filling out all the, requisites, and then remembering that you cannot pivot, that you cannot change anything that's written down. You
not be innovative. It's just
no. Like the best, and that's not a joke, but in 2024, I was talking with a guy, one of the most famous AI guys right now in Poland, and he was trying to create an R&D project for quite innovative AI approach. Oh, I see the microphone is breaking, or I'm just weird? Yeah, I'm weird. All right. And then he applied for R&D grant, couple million zlotys, for AI project, R&D AI project. And he got reply, we will require a 5-year roadmap with all the milestones that you cannot pivot from? I rest my case.
Philip, do you
Yeah, now it's your turn.
or?
Where should we go?
Let me give you like 30 seconds so you can gather your thoughts.
No.
No. But
I have all of them.
I feel like we're mixing a couple of things. On the one hand, we're talking about the legal frameworks and, for example, the issues with the data, right, and copyright and all that. And if we want to have true open source AI, we need to make sure that the data is well taken care of, right? So either we hide it and we avoid transparency, or if we want to do it the proper way, we need to do all this labor. The other thing is bureaucracy, right? The case that you've been describing is really heartbreaking, right? That there's literally no way for the government to support a group of people who wants to build something, right? Because the procedures don't allow it. And then there is the whole, does law work hand in hand with technology, right? Can we have a proper framework around innovation that will keep up? But Philip,
Yeah, so
defend the government.
I'll do my best, but I don't know if I'd be very honest if I just claim that everything is fine. I've been criticizing the European approach to innovation for quite some time, to be honest, at least for several years. But I don't want to be the party pooper, but I don't think the abundance of regulation is the number one problem here in Europe. Is the lack of resources. The amount of money that we're spending is minuscule when you compare it to the global leaders, when you compare it to USA or China. We have great scientists, we have decent innovators in terms of numbers, but we don't have the capital, and the companies are not willing to spend. So this is, and one of the reasons is for that is the competition with the United States of America. As long as top minds in Europe will plan their career on emigrating to the States as soon as possible,
Yeah, not anymore, I guess.
And going through all the rounds, amassing VC and then registering in Delaware. Well, we're not going anywhere. So I don't know if it's a solvable issue. It definitely does not require any changes in the AI policy. It requires some major monetary reforms or changes in the overall macroeconomic approach. One of the things that struck me the most over the last year is that when Poland decided that we want to spend money on an semiconductors factory, the deputy prime minister, according to the EU law, had to travel and do a pilgrimage to Brussels and beg commissioners to allow them to spend the public money on an innovation proposal. It's not a fault of any given commissioner. It's not a fault of the minister, obviously. But we have a anti-innovation system. It's been established in like early 90s. We cannot spend money on innovation, and that's precisely what China and the States have been doing. So I understand there are a lot of problems, but whenever I hear an innovator that talks about the abundance of regulations, I always think you just need to hire somebody. Just hire a law company. It's just a percentage of the spending. So the problem is not the abundance of regulation if you have the money. And we don't have the money.
Yeah, but having the company in Delaware is cheaper than having a company in Poland.
Obviously, but it's even cheaper in Bangladesh. So you cannot compete with everything. So with everybody at the same time. So I would say that the number one problem is the amount of spending. We definitely need to be spending this money not just on buying computers and ready-made systems. We need to be investing in education, AI hubs, AI centers for competencies. We need to pour money into
Philip,
AI
okay.
regulatory sandboxes.
Do you think there's no money in Europe, or just the money is not spent?
There's not enough
well?
money, and even worse, when it comes to Poland, it's not the spending is not coordinated enough. For the last 15 months, we've been in the Ministry of Digital Affairs. We've been trying to make all the major R&D spenders, so government agencies that distribute the funds, to sit at the same table and coordinate without pushing anybody to do anything. We just wanted to coordinate. So we got this NCBR, which spends money on R&D projects, mainly applied ones. We have NCN, that spends money on basic research. Can you imagine that they don't have a single platform where they communicate like regularly? And we have other agencies who spend money on innovation in this region, and we have money. We have the Polish Investment Fund, the Development Fund. It's not coordinated, and without changing the mindset of administrators, it's going to be very hard to change.
Okay,
there are people, there are
we're-
wonderful people that are working on that, but it's very often it's painful. I see some reasons for optimism.
But what
we just
about
presented
private money? All that private
There's
money.
no such thing.
Oh no, there's a lot of private money. It's just all being spent on summer houses in Spain.
Exactly.
We all know that.
But it's, tax preferable.
That's another reason. Yeah, when you make an investment, I think it's basically.
Okay,
if-
but we're drifted
it's
away a
problem,
little
yeah.
bit from the topic. We have like 8 minutes left. I'd like to come back to. Let me check if there are any questions or comments. If not, let's move away from criticizing the government, if possible, and the public spending. And if you could tell me, using this time that we have left in 2-3 minutes, what do you think are the biggest obstacles and the biggest enablers for deploying open source in Polish business, in Polish industry?
I might start with my opening statement that, first of all, we need to start with basic digital education and then think about open source.
And who is we?
Like we as a society, and we cannot put that on the government, we cannot put that on municipalities or private sector. No, we need to do our work, each and every one on their own. I'm trying to work with, Warso districts and teaching pensioners about AI. This Saturday, please welcome to the new Ursynowa. I'm going to have the tent of artificial intelligence for children and their families. Everyone can be vocal and can at least speak aloud around themselves, and that should be enough, at least at the basic level. Then obviously we need systemic approach. We need to, be inclusive for both elder people and the youth, as well as youth. But there's no single bullet that's gonna solve it all. It's a really complex solution, and we gotta start with ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Ines, future-proofing Polish industry, obstacles, enablers, open source.
Building upon what you said, I think the problem of open source solutions is again the entry level, so to say. I was just thinking about all the courses you can find, like online classes and everything, like how to use AI and learn AI, and there are so
Most
many.
of them are bullshit. Sorry.
I'm not talking about their quality at the moment, but I'm just thinking they mostly teach you how to use the open commercial tools. It's like, a ChatGPT course or a Claude or something, and you actually almost never get like those open source models because they usually don't have the interface. They're just, a little bit hidden for engineers, for people who can code. And the whole revolution of this generative AI was about, being accessible to everyone. We just go to a web page and use our natural language, and that's the beauty of it. And as long as those tools are harder to use for each and everyone, with people with no technical background, they will not be, this widely known and then this widely promoted, and they will not even always be known among the industry. It's much easier, I think, for business people when they are on a conference or somewhere. They are being approached by, salespeople, by people from, the companies, and not especially by, people from open source models. The beautiful exception is Bielik. They're doing like really great work. It's a huge movement. You can find everywhere, like at every conference, every AI event, everywhere where it's possible, somebody from Bielik talking about how to use it in business, how to use it at all. And you have the web interface, so every one of us can go to bielik.ai and try and use the model. So this is actually a very good example how to do it. just make it accessible, and then it will be, the more people talk about something, the more we know something, the more supported it will be, and we just installed in our awareness, also in the awareness of business, because usually who decides are not technical people, are people somewhere upper level. They know what they know. If they never heard about it, they will not suggest it, or they want to go this path. So just make it more accessible, more spread.
Thank you, Philippe.
I'll start with the government side. I would identify the main barrier as the lack of coordination. It's not their lack of will. It's not even the lack of competence. It's the lack of seamless, smooth cooperation among various government agencies. It's a hellhole, and we're trying really hard to work through that. I hope that we'll have less government agencies in a couple of weeks, not more. But this, I would say, this is number one problem. It's not even the money. There's quite a lot of money that you can spend from the EU funds or even R&D spending. It's a question of proper agencies setting their priorities right. On the private sector side, I think, paradoxically, the problem is much larger when it comes to Polish industry. So according to the data from a survey organized by the Ministry of Development and Technology, 30% of Polish entrepreneurs do not use any technology. And I don't mean any, including a phone. Yeah? So let it sink in. According to our NASC and ILO study, only 10% of workers said that their companies allow or support the use of Gen AI. It's 2025. It's been a couple of months since we ran the survey, but still, it's something very useful. And on the citizen side, so the civil society side, nothing works better against the politicians and bureaucrats than pressure. So the more pressure, the more statements of ambition. We know that it's going to be very hard to be at the continent, at the level of top AI performers in Europe, but it's going to be easier and more. The outcome will be more likely if the society decides it's an important thing. So the more we push, the more we get in advance. And it also comes down to showcasing working solutions. So showing entrepreneurs and showing bureaucrats that something works, that it's stable, that it has been around, and it's being properly maintained, can do magic.
Okay. We have a bit of time. No, we don't. No. If there are any questions, are there questions, comments? But I don't see any raised hands. If that's the case, then thank you very much for this discussion, and thank you all for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is a coffee break now. We meet back at 4:10. Thank you. Spotykamy się za pół godziny. Teraz czas na kawę.